What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Full 90. Happy New Year. It is time for the Week 20 Premier League predictions. I just want to quickly say thank you so much for 30,000 subscribers. As a result of that, you can expect 20 videos, if all goes well, for the month of January. That is Serie A, La Liga, Bundesliga, as well as Premier League and Champions League. So thank you so much for your support. I couldn't have done it without you. Let's go for 40,000 subscribers this year. Here's the accumulators we've had since the last video. You can pause and check it out if you want to. We had a couple of good Premier League accumulators there. Mamelodi Sundowns as well. If you don't know about them from the South African Premier League, then get to know. One of the most reliable teams I've found in the last year or so. Flashing up on the screen are all of the people that have joined the Patreon and are supporting me on the channel. And seriously, it's everyone on the Patreon that is hopefully going to be able to make this possible in terms of doing all of these extra videos, because I think there were only 6 videos scheduled for January, like 4 Premier League, 2 Champions League, but there's a lot of Serie A, there's a lot of Bundesliga, and of course there's a lot of La Liga as well. So I'm going to obviously do my best to keep the videos up. We'll see how it goes, and people that support me on the Patreon and just contribute financially allow me to sort of do that. And I don't quite know just how much of an undertaking it's going to be going into this year, but I'm going to give it my best shot and give you the leagues that you desire. So thank you so much to everyone who supports me on Patreon. If you want to get exclusive members tips and accumulators, get a shout out in every video, then you can click that join link down below. But with that all being said, the excitement is of course here. Just so you know, the next video will be out on the 7th, I believe, and that'll be Serie A. The day after that, we'll have the Bundesliga, and the day after that, we'll have La Liga. But with all that being said, it is time to kick off with week 20 of the Premier League, and it is a big one. It's Tottenham up against Newcastle. Now, in the last video, we said that Newcastle would beat Manchester United. I was pretty happy about that, but I did say that Tottenham would beat Wolves in a game with 4 goals. Unfortunately, for that prediction at least, it was a game with 4 goals, but it ended all square 2-2. Newcastle are on an absolutely insane run, and it's hard to look past them. So once again, I'm going to predict Newcastle to win 2-1. The tip is going to be Newcastle double chance and both teams to score, which gets you odds of 1.8. I thought about Newcastle to win about 2.3, 2.4, and by all means you could do that, but Tottenham could just sneak a draw because it's so difficult to predict Tottenham games. It's one of the trickiest teams I feel like to predict in the Premier League. After this, we have Aston Villa up against Leicester. I was very close to a perfect score prediction for Aston Villa Brighton, but Brighton scored a late goal to pull it back. Leicester, on the other hand, I was again very close to a correct score prediction. I predicted 2-1 to Man City, but it was 2-0. So if I could just have given that Brighton goal to Leicester, we would have 2 perfect scores on our hands. But for this one, I think Aston Villa are going to have more than enough to win, to the point where I'm going to say it'll be 3-1, and the tip will be Aston Villa and both teams to score at 2.75. Last time I tipped teams winning both teams to score around about those odds was Arsenal and both teams to score yesterday. And of course, that came in as well, Arsenal winning from behind. So I think Aston Villa will beat Leicester here. Now, afterwards, it's Bournemouth up against Everton. I found this one really quite difficult to predict. Bournemouth, in the previous game week, as I predicted, a score draw with Fulham. You would have seen that in the accumulator at the beginning of the video as well over from Patreon. And Everton, I predicted, would lose to Nottingham Forest with under 2.5 goals. My tip was under 2.5 goals and a Nottingham Forest win. They ended up winning 2-0. My correct score prediction was 1-0 to Forest. So I think this will be low scoring again, naturally. And I'm just going to shade it to Bournemouth and say, with their home advantage, they get a 1-0 win. And I'm going to tip Bournemouth to win at 1.72. I thought about the unders, but sometimes Bournemouth go on a bit of a mad one. And sometimes, you know, Everton's had a couple of 4-0 games in their season. So I'm not super confident on that, really. So I'm just going to say 1-0 to Bournemouth either way. Now, after this, it is Crystal Palace up against Chelsea. Crystal Palace, we correctly predicted, would beat Southampton 2-1 last game week. And Chelsea, we predicted it would be a 2-0 game against Ipswich, but it went the other way. Ipswich beating them 2-0. Now, it's funny. I originally predicted a draw for this fixture between Palace and Chelsea at Selhurst Park. It is a tricky place to go. Chelsea have had a bit of a blip in form, losing to Ipswich and Fulham, so 0 points from 6, allowing Arsenal to sort of leapfrog them in the league as well as Nottingham Forest. But I just... I wasn't brave enough to predict a draw, so I'm going to say Chelsea win 2-1, but the tip stays the same, and that is both teams to score at 1.53. Should I just predict a Palace win? No, I'll say Chelsea 2-1. Now's not the time to go for those upsets. We'll go for Chelsea to win 2-1. After this, it is Manchester City up against West Ham. As I said, we tipped Man City and over 1.5 goals against Leicester. That came in. And Liverpool against West Ham, we said Liverpool would win 2-0, and West Ham got absolutely battered 5-0. I think this could be quite similar, actually. At the Etihad, Man City got a much-needed win against Leicester, and I think they'll have no problems bouncing back here against West Ham. So I'm going to say a 3-0 win to Manchester City, and I'm going to go Man City -1 handicap at 1.8. I think West Ham, they embarrassed themselves against Liverpool, to be honest, so I think Man City should have no problem here. After this, it is Southampton up against Brentford. I have to say, what a goal from Mbeumo against Arsenal to open the scoring. But other than that, it was pretty much all Arsenal. Southampton, on the other hand, they lost 2-1 to Crystal Palace, as we predicted. Brentford, obviously, they've had good home form this season, but I said that was because they, a few weeks ago, I said it's only because they played pretty bad teams at home. And their away form is bad, but it's only because they played really good teams away from home. Southampton is not a good team, but maybe this is a little bit of an upset. I'm going to say that Southampton get something against Brentford. I just feel like it's got to come eventually. So, they were close to getting something from Crystal Palace, only 1 goal in it. Close to getting something from West Ham, there was only 1 goal in it. So I'm going to say that they do this time. A 1-1 draw, but the tip is going to be both teams to score at 1.53. After this, we travel to the Amex Stadium for Brighton up against Arsenal. Brighton, as I said, getting a late equaliser against Aston Villa, and Arsenal winning against Brentford with both teams scoring. I think this is going to be a pretty similar sort of scoreline. I'm going to say that Arsenal win this one 2-1, and the tip is going to be Arsenal to win at 1.75. I really like the odds. I considered Arsenal and both teams to score, but where Arsenal, they do sometimes just win 2-0, and I think it could happen. So I do think that Arsenal will get the win, and whether or not both teams to score doesn't really matter for this tip. So Arsenal to win, the odds of 1.75, I really, really like it. The odds here are saying that Arsenal are less likely to beat Brighton than Liverpool are to beat Man United by 2 or more goals. Now, whilst I think both will happen, there's a little bit of disparity there. I think Arsenal are good value for a win here. Now, after this, we travel to Craven Cottage for Fulham up against Ipswich. Fulham, in the previous game week, as I said, drawing to Bournemouth. They were winning until right near the end. And Ipswich, massive result, their first home win of the season, and they managed to get it in the year 2024, 2-0 against Chelsea. I do think this would be a step too far. Obviously, Fulham and Ipswich have both beaten Chelsea in the last 2 game weeks, but I think Fulham at home will be too strong. I'm going to say a 2-1 win to Fulham, but the tip is going to be both teams to score at 1.8. I think Ipswich are good for a goal, but I think Fulham will definitely score, and I do think Ipswich can contribute. So both teams to score at odds of 1.8, I really, really like. Now, it is one of the games of the week. I think it's between Tottenham and Newcastle, and then this one, Liverpool and Manchester United. The pedigree, the rivalry, it's all there, but the golfing quality is too, and Liverpool are far better, far superior than Manchester United. I read something this morning that said Amorim wants Gyökeres to Manchester United as a matter of urgency. But I don't know. You could put the best striker in the world in that Man United team, and it wouldn't stop them getting battered in the midfield like they did against Newcastle. So I think Liverpool are going to win this one quite convincingly. I'm going to say 3-0. My tip is going to be Liverpool -1 handicap at 1.66, even though those odds are really poor. Those odds are really not good. The problem with Liverpool is this season, obviously you predict most of the results, but getting a tip that has value that isn't just Liverpool win is actually quite difficult. So I don't know where you go. Perhaps Liverpool and over 2.5 goals, but I'm not sure if the value or the odds will be much better. Liverpool to win heavily against Manchester United. Now, the final game before the Premier League takes a little bit of a break, to allow me, of course, to do Serie A, La Liga and Bundesliga on the channel. They specifically took this break for me, obviously. It's Wolves up against Nottingham Forest. Now, Wolves, in the previous game week, they got that draw against Tottenham. Nottingham Forest going from strength to strength, beating Everton at Goodison Park. What a result that is. I find it difficult to look past Nottingham Forest here because sometimes, even if teams might seem fairly well matched, like you take the start of the season, you would have put Wolves and Nottingham Forest on sort of a level playing field, and you look at the teams on paper, you could almost argue the same, but there is a lot to be said for a team that is used to winning, and it does help you win more. It just does. So I'm going to say that Nottingham Forest win this one 2-1. And my tip at the same odds of Liverpool -1 handicap against Man United is going to be Nottingham Forest draw no bet at 1.66. So that is going to do it for this video. If you did enjoy it, please do drop a like, subscribe down below and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Like I said, Serie A, La Liga and Bundesliga on the channel next week, 7th, 8th and 9th of January. So don't miss that, and subscribe down below with notifications on so you get a notification when I upload upload those videos. But that is going to do it from me. Thank you once again so much for 30,000 subscribers. Feel free to check out the Patreon down below, and I'll see you in the next video very soon.